Sounds like nobody was here a couple weeks ago. So what I typically like to start out was there one thing that you took away from the last session? How do you think about AI messaging or growth? But since nobody was here a couple weeks ago, this is essentially my promise to you guys. Hello and welcome. We've got a really great group of CEOs here, innovative people. I'm going to put myself in the lower right-hand corner. Um, we've got Bassett's coming in. Hello, Aviel. Good to see you. So yeah, so you don't have to have yourself on camera if you don't want to. I want you to, speak up at any point. This is a conversation. But I'm going to take you through these five shifts as part of this conversation today, and we're going to talk about really how to nail your sales message, even if your solution is complicated and sophisticated, how to turn your homepage into a home run for perfect buyers, why it's game over for most marketing playbooks and what you need to do instead, and how to attract ideal customers into really great buying conversations and lead your category, even if they've never heard of your solution. We're going to be talking today about one of the shifts, which is how you can create a category of one. And then I think this is the theme throughout what we're going to be discussing. And this is a conversation about how to get AI to create 100% on-brand content as a machine for everybody on your team. So I think behind me here is some very cool stuff. Just who here to type in the chat or just say out loud, have you been experimenting with the multimodal on AI on ChatGPT, asking it to create some images and some infographics? Anybody? This is pretty mind-blowing. Anyone here? Look, Ben, absolutely. So I'm going to also be giving you some free things. So if you can screenshot this, you'll probably notice that ChatGPT uses a lot of shitty words, words that really make it smell, your marketing smell like ChatGPT. If you want to screenshot these and put it up in ChatGPT and just say, go on detox, never use these words again, this is a really great giveaway because one of the things we're going to be talking about today is how to get AI to sound like your brand. And so you can actually scale. So these are my top 6 tools. And if you've got some tools that you're using, feel free to come off of mute and share what tools they are with colleagues, this community of awesome, innovative CEOs here. I would say OpenAI ChatGPT is my biggest tool. I spend most of my time in that. I think in the last year, I've spent probably full time working with AI and integrating AI in sales and marketing programs for our clients. Cloud is awesome. I don't know if it's Claude or Cloud. I can't tell the difference, but maybe it's Claude. I don't know if it matters. I know the CEO from Anthropic is French, so maybe it's Cloud. I don't know if you know the answer to that. Let me know. Come off of mute. Um, so Notebook LM is amazing. That's an experiment from Google, and that's created several podcasts that are totally artificially intelligent. OpusClip.ai is also a really great tool. You guys should check it out. It's a way if you take like a 30-minute or 40-minute webinar or even meeting, and it will chop it up into sound clips, pieces, and make it snackable social media content. I'm using experimenting now with Blotato, and it's great for posting on multi-platform social media, and of course, Gemini. And Gemini, I think Google's a little bit late in the game, but they've got some pretty amazing tools under Gemini that's an experiment. If anyone here is using some very cool tools, please share. I'm looking in the waiting room right now, and there's a lot of AIs. And again, my policy is not to include AIs unless the human that sent them is there. So if you've got an AI in the waiting room, just speak up and I'll let them in. But this is a conversation I want to have with you guys. So type in the chat, where are you guys coming in from? So I know, and each of you are CEOs of some amazing companies. So definitely type in the chat where you're coming in from, and feel free to take yourself off of mute and speak at any time. I'd like to keep this a conversation. And on the screen here, you can see that the hottest AI job in 2023 is already dead. And how can I make the down signal? There it is. It's dead. Prompt engineering, because it's not about the prompt anymore. I'm going to be sharing in these 5 shifts what it's really about. And this is coming from my own experience and experience in helping private and public companies integrate AI in their sales and marketing. So this is a conversation. Looks like co-founder and CEO of Dexagos. Great, thank you, Mark. And that's great, Mark. The answer is yes. I've been using ChatGPT a lot. That's awesome. Napkin AI, I like that. Iona, the visual AI for business and storytelling. Fantastic. We got
Yeah,
AVL
it's
from
super
Mexico
cool.
City. What's that?
No, it's super cool. It has helped me make some very nice graphics, so totally recommend it.
That's great. So this is a sort of an office hours that I like to have. I have it spontaneous every couple weeks, and we have really live conversations like this. We have a conversation about really what we're doing to help integrate AI in sales and marketing to help innovative CEOs attract ideal customers and grow their business without having to add a lot of staff or especially marketers that are doing things the old-fashioned way. So I'm going to put in the chat a couple things. I'm going to be giving out lots of stuff for you guys for just participating today. The first thing is if you guys want to lock down these um, these 5 shifts for your business that we're going to be talking about today, and you want to talk with us about how to do that in your business, I just put a link in the chat that you can do that, and I'll be showing that later as well. Um, and So if you want to speak up at any point here, I'm going to be being pretty controversial and really asking you, giving you an assessment to see where you guys stand on AI readiness in just a couple of minutes. And so, this is a participatory conversation, and I feel a little bit like I'm a cross between Chicken Little and the Pied Piper here because the world has changed and, I've in it, you're in it, and it's really okay to feel completely overwhelmed. What you're looking at here behind me is a completely artificially intelligent podcast that's visual on Facebook with characters that were created by AI and they talk to each other. And it's actually pretty good. So, I mean, it's okay to be overwhelmed by what's out there. And there's a couple scary questions, and this is the Chicken Little part of me that I want to put out there for you guys and see what you think. The LLMs right now searching for your website, do they really understand? And maybe put a yes or no in the chat or say out loud. Do they really understand your value, the value of the innovation that you've worked so hard with your team to create and to sell? Or do you think that they might be right now confusing it with solutions that are nothing like yours? It's a yes or no question. Anyone want to say anything about that? Yes or no? Type in the chat. Yeah, it is scary. Here's another scary question. If you go to ChatGPT right now and prompt this, who should I trust to help solve the problem you solve in your industry? Would your business come up? And this is a very scary question because I think the divide in 2026, and this is the Chicken Little in me, the divide is going to get really big, and 2026 is really going to be a rough year for a lot of businesses because they're not using AI in the way that they need to be. And that's what the purpose of this discussion is today, to really help you guys get your heads around it and give you 5 shifts that you need to make as the CEO, as the leader of your business. And I'm here to help. I'm here to be the Pied Piper and to also be Chicken Little. The sky is falling. I hope you're not freaking out. But AI aside, I look at a lot of marketing and I've actually used GPT to do some searching of 750 solution sites. And I found that so many of them are saying the same kind of BS and not differentiating themselves. So AI aside, marketing has a fundamental flaw that AI is not going to fix because if AI doesn't know your story, it can't tell it unless you teach it. Anyone want to comment on this? Ben, Daniel, Mark, Sally, Aviel, does this make sense to you? Is this concerning to you about story? Um,
No,
any
I taught
comments
it.
there?
I
What
taught
was
it,
that?
and it does a lot better job if you help it understand. Well, not really understand. If you give it a lot of examples.
Great. I see Mark. I tried ChatGPT and our company came top of the list. That's fantastic, Mark. That's great. So what we see is if you're positioned the wrong way, your AI integrated marketing is going to fail. And what I'm seeing a lot of content out there on LinkedIn and websites, a lot of companies, it feels like they've hired the same designer, the same copywriter, because a lot of it sounds the same. So I think two things need to happen, and I'm not going to go into this now, but essentially it's getting your strategy and positioning nailed. And then once that's nailed, then giving that in a trained form, in a document form, or whatever form you can give it to the AIs so that it can basically create a machine for you to create all your marketing. And PitchKitchen, the agency that I'm the CEO of, we have a 3-month, 90-day sprint that makes all that happen. And yeah, and I'm also an AI educator. And so I'm running these workshops for founders and teams to, what I find is that everyone's got ChatGPT and everyone's got these tools, but I think it's about how people are using them or not using them. A lot of people aren't using them and don't know how to use them in the right way. And they have, I think, a mindset that it's like a tool. But if you've been working with AI and have as many sleepless nights as I have with it, I'm sure maybe you can comment here. Have you found that when you work with AI as if it's a collaborator, that you're getting amazing results, not as a tool? You're not trying to prompt right or hit and miss. You're really trying to collaborate. Have you found that to be true? So speaking about AI and that gap that I mentioned, this is the Chicken Little in me. This is what I see, and I think it's going to be a bloodbath in 2026 for a lot of companies that really haven't taken steps to integrate AI, and that's why I'm having these every 2-week conversations because I feel like so much is at stake. I think there are going to be two kinds of companies in 2026. There are going to be companies that are using AI integrated with their teams to do sales and marketing and operations and other things. And they're going to be another kinds of company that's just out of business. I really think it's going to be that stark um, from what I'm seeing. So in terms of like, let's do a quick test with you guys, like, yes or no questions here. We'll go into the 3 layers of how you should be using ChatGPT. There's the first layer and the third layer. We'll go into this later if you like. And I'm going to be giving away some things, a magnetic messaging framework. I'm going to give you that away to you. It's a link that you can really check your website to make sure it has is telling all the elements that you need to tell in the story. So when anybody comes to your website, or even the AIs, that it can very quickly understand what you're selling. You'd be surprised at how many websites just don't do that. I'm also going to be giving away the 12 conversations that need to be had in order to win 50 to 100K, $250,000 deals. And if you miss one of these conversations, you'll likely not get the deal. And then I'm also going to be giving away a GPT homepage messaging evaluator that uses the magnetic messaging framework so that you could use that GPT to get some coaching on what immediately needs to change. But first, yeah, and also, by the way, if you didn't know my book, it's called Storycraft for Disruptors. It's on Amazon, and I actually will be happy to give you guys a free copy of that today at the end, if you're hanging around. So Ben, Daniel, Iona, Mark, Sally, Aviel, awesome. So Blessing, Francis. All right, someone else is joining. So I'm going to give away some things too. This is the TAP framework. If you want to just screenshot this, this is hugely valuable. So remember, I talked about a better way to collaborate with AI instead of just prompts that you're copying and pasting. I call it the TAP framework, where you're really talking to it and explaining what you're trying to
Sorry,
do.
Greg. I think you're kind of blocking the bottoms. Okay, pig. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so I'll
I
lean
couldn't.
to the side here. Let me
There we
back
go.
up. All right, so
Thank
yeah,
you.
pick and decide what options are best. So let me say, talk to it. Step 2, ask and share ideas. And 3, pick the ideas are the best. This is what I call vibe prompting. It's a spin-off of the code prompting, and it really works great. Because if you use straight text prompts, they're kind of hit or miss, and they don't work. This is another thing that you should screenshot and use. And this will blow your mind. If you copy and paste this prompt and use it, you're going to be like getting goosebumps about what GPT knows about you based on the conversations you've had, and giving you some pretty deep insights on things that you really should be thinking about and doing. And so here, you are my AI meta coach. Based on your full memory of our past conversations, I want you to identify 5 recurring patterns in how I think, speak, and act that may be limiting my growth. Amazing. For each blind spot, tell me where it is most often shows up, how it might be holding me back. Really cool stuff. So here's another cool thing. And you should also use this, the craft framework. We'll spend a little time on this, and this is a prompting framework. And C stands for context. So give it as much context as you can, background and details. Give it a role, like what do you want it to play, an expert in something. And you can even say, I want you to be the 0.01% top expert in this field. And that would be a role. Give it an audience, like who is this for? Give it a format. Do you want a paragraph, a sentence? Maybe you want a diagram. By the way, this is artwork that was generated in a format by GPT Multimodal. And then give it a tone. Do you want it to sound like Ryan Reynolds? Do you want it to sound like Donald Trump? And I don't know what that would sound like, but yeah, this is a really good framework for prompting, and I wanted to give that to you guys. This is a loop framework. I don't have too much time to go into this one, but just screenshot it. I'm going to just move out of the way if you want to screenshot that. This is an awesome framework that, you know how they say, you don't want to eliminate the human in the loop, and you are the human in the loop. Your team is the human in the loop, but we humans should only touch work at our highest point of contribution. We should not become what's on the screen here, glorified copy and paste machines. And that's what a lot of people are doing. They're just using ChatGPT, copying what comes out and editing it. And that's the worst thing you can do, because our position in the world right now is not to become the garbage men of AI, but to be collaborators. And the loop framework here helps you get out of that trap. So I call it like the garbage trap. So were those helpful, by the way? Those frameworks, have you seen them before, by the way? Anyone? Nope.
Helpful. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, I haven't seen them before.
Great. So let's do a quick AI readiness check with you guys. All right. So this is like yes or no questions. So let's just take an honest assessment of where you guys are right now, Q2 2025 for companies repositioning to thrive in the age of AI. These are the 6-question self-assessment. So if you want to just say out loud or type in the chat, or if you're too afraid, you don't have to say anything, but here are questions that you need to think about. Yes or no? Is your core message telling a problem-centric story that sets you apart and aligns with how buyers use AI to choose solutions? This is a yes or no question. Anyone have a yes or a no? Okay,
Yes.
great. Is your team cranking out 100% on-brand communications? That's emails, proposals, responses to RFPs, and content on demand with AI using a shared message that shows up in every email, pitch, and prompt? Is that a yes or no from people? We got Maria, no. Mark, Daniel,
No.
no. We got a Ben Cornelius, got a yes in the house. Awesome. No. All right. So here, number 3, is your trained AI assistant, I'm assuming you have one, pitching your value proposition clearly and accurately right now? So if you don't have a trained AI assistant, that's definitely a no. But if you have one, is it actually positioning you correctly right now? Yes or no? Type in the chat or say verbally. Yes or no? I'm looking at the chat. We have a thumbs down, or do we have a thumbs up?
Me?
Okay, number 4. Do you have a repeatable way, like a webinar, workshop, or stage talk, that builds trust and positions you as the obvious choice in your market? Yes or no? Give me a yes or no in the chat. Anyone? We have a thumbs up or thumbs down. We got a no in that. Okay. So that's authority and demand generation. All right, let's go to 5. Is your sales team, and I'm assuming you have a sales team. If you don't, that's fine. But is your sales team, maybe it's you and a couple people, leading high trust, buyer-led conversations, or are you just demoing and fingers crossed, hoping something sticks? Let's see if we can get, is this yes or no? Is your sales team doing this? Yes or no? Yes, we got a yes from AVL, thumbs up. I hope so. Mark. Okay, that's great. All right, so number 6, is your team still avoiding the AI tools you've already invested in? Meaning they have licenses, but they're using hit or miss prompts, editing output that's not right, and that's that garbage man thing, or barely using AI at all. Yes or no? So we got Mark, Maria, Iona, Daniel, Blessing, Francis, Ben, Aviel. No. All right, so here's the deal. If you got 3 or more no's, the bad news is your business is not ready for what's coming in 2026. And I really want to help you guys do that. Feel free to book some time with us. We're going to be talking about the 5 shifts as much time as we have today. And I think the no's that you got are really symptoms, the symptoms of a bigger problem. And the real problem is that you probably haven't made the 5 shifts that we're going to be talking about. And we'll jump into them. One of the shifts here is like this is a website that this is what we see all the time. Words like this, and this ChatGPT won't save you from this unless you train it. So what's wrong with this website? Anybody want to comment on what you see here? What's wrong with this?
Yeah, there's no clear value proposition there. It's just very generic and very dense.
Yeah, and like, do you even know what they sell or what problem they solve?
No, that's why I said,
Or who they solve to. So this is the problem with most marketing, and ChatGPT is not going to help with this because it hasn't been trained to do it. So a lot of language like this, I'm going to give you guys, like if you want to screenshot these words, for example, you want to screenshot these and tell ChatGPT never to use these words again in any of your marketing, because this is also telltale signs that your copy has been written by ChatGPT. And who here could tell when you see copy text that's been written by ChatGPT? Anyone?
These are the kind
here?
of things that should never be used in business in general, but it just becomes the same thing that should never be used in AI.
Yeah. But AI has been trained on what?
Yeah, on humans talking this buzzword bingo for decades.
Yes. So unless you specifically train it out, it's going to be there. Yeah. So absolutely. So a lot of folks use sales presentations like this, and this doesn't work. Why doesn't sales presentations like this work? It's like compensating for websites that don't tell the story right. But I call these like Frankendex. But this is no way to sell. So I'm basically saying that once you make these 5 shifts that we're going to be talking about, you're going to have complete confidence in what you're doing. You're going to lead your category in what I call a category of one, especially if you're selling an innovation. And just real quick check, who here is selling an innovation, or what you might consider is what your customers might consider an innovation in the industry?
Yeah.
That's great. So that means that you're probably doing things and solving a problem in a unique way. And so you really ought to be having a category of one. And one of the shifts that we're going to talk about is how to do that and how other companies have done that. Once you make these shifts, your leadership team will be fully aligned. The people that you trust to lead your business forward everyone will be singing the same song and running in the same direction. And you'll also be to create 100% on-brand content everywhere, every month, without hiring anybody. Meaning you don't necessarily have to hire a marketing manager unless they're more of a project manager, because the heart and soul of the copy is already nailed. And you'll also be able to attract ideal prospects into conversations already predisposed and ready to buy versus having to convince them. That's the power of making these 5 shifts. So before we jump into this, I want to talk about the 5 shifts that make you ready. Any comments about anything here so far? Any questions about anything I've said? Anything that have stirred you the wrong way? Again, I oscillate between Chicken Little and the Pied Piper here. So any comments, questions, concerns? Nope. Nope. Okay. Cool. Let me find where I was, and let's jump into the 5 shifts. All right. I think we'll start into shift number 1. Number 1 is, okay. So here's the first shift. And I call it lead a movement. And you may think I'm absolutely crazy, but if you're selling an innovation, like many of you said, said Maria, Mark, Aviel, Daniel, what does your innovation challenge? Anyone want to comment on what your innovation challenge is? I mean, you've heard of the challenger sale, right? So what does your innovation challenge?
I'll give you one of mine quickly, which is a huge inefficiency in generating video-based advertising, uh, reliant on very costly measures that few businesses can afford, especially for small, medium-sized brands or agencies. So solving that problem is of huge value.
Awesome. And so what does it challenge? What's the current state? What's the enemy that you and your customer both have in common that you're trying to overcome?
Lost time and lost dollars.
Lost money, lost time. And that's the impact of what the enemy is, but that's not the enemy, if I'm hearing you right. Anyone? Are you hearing that as well? We're not hearing the enemy. What if you were to pin the tail on the donkey here? And this is I'm being the coach here, if you'll allow me to be that coach. Who is the enemy here?
Of what I was just describing.
Yes. So the enemy is lost dollars, lost time. That's not really the enemy. That's the impact. That's the fallout, the impact of what the enemy does. But what's the enemy in the story?
Well, the enemy would be the alternative, right, to your solution,
Which is what?
which is analysis paralysis. Could be
Yes, I love that. Analysis paralysis. That's the
that's a
enemy.
big one. That's the inertia salt, right? You know,
Yeah.
just can't move often because it's their own business. So internal conflict and political stuff, or just lack of know-how, right? Innovation is risk. So you could just call it yeah, risk.
Risk aversion, and but there's something safe and comfortable that people like about that. So that's the enemy. And getting really clear, Daniel, I'm sure you'll appreciate too many CEOs have fallen in love with their solution and
Mm-hmm.
goal, but they've almost walked over the grave of the enemy that really that's the one that you're losing deals to, that warm and comfortable status quo. Would you agree?
100%. Warm and comfortable status quo. Good way to say it.
Yeah, so thank you. So you know what, you remember Salesforce.com, they did this thing, back in 2005, and they're like a multi-billion dollar company now, but they attacked software. It was wildly successful. And that was the enemy. So I guess the point I'm bringing up here, not just for you, Daniel, but everybody, for us in this conversation, is if the first shift you need to make is to lead a movement. Lead a movement against the old way, because that is where you're losing business today. That's where most of your competition is. That's where you're losing deals. So the old way to pitch and to sell is you're essentially making claims about how great your solution is and why we're the best. But the best way for you to position yourself and winning through better positioning is to lead a movement like a rebel leader. And Daniel, you tell me if this resonates with you, where you're talking about why the old way not only is dead, but if you continue going about the old way that way, that it's life or death stakes. It's road to ruin eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta, to your point, you have to really make it so clear and have everyone coalesce around your belief of who the enemy is.
Love that. And so, like Chris Orlib calls this an effective nexus. And this is what I'm encouraging everyone here to, like, if you know what your effective nexus is, just type it in the chat or come off of mute. Let's hear it. It's a polarizing statement, like no software, no this. It's a clear binary statement. And it shakes the confidence in your prospects in a good way. The ones that are feeling so warm and comfortable with the risk that they're like, oh, I'm afraid to make a change, especially if what you're selling is an innovation. Would anyone here like to share what your polarizing statement is if you've already made this shift about leading a movement? Blessing, Mark, Maria, Aviel, hope this is useful, guys, but this is really important for you to do as a business leader to get clear on what you're telling your prospects, the market to stop doing, and what you're inviting them to start doing. Is this helpful? Anyone would like to say what you're telling the market through your thought leadership, through your marketing, what everyone should stop doing and what everyone should start doing as it relates to the outcomes that your solution provides?
Yeah, I mean, so we focus on business operations. So our message is on our website about being overwhelmed by wasting time on administrative tasks versus focusing on growth,
Mm-hmm.
which can cost you your company.
So what are you saying people should stop doing?
Stop spending time on manual operations tasks.
Love that. Love the color. I mean, who else loves that? Applaud for you, Maria. That's great. And what are you saying to start doing?
Well, I mean, what we're saying is hire us to build that infrastructure for you so you can focus on growth.
Yeah, so here's the pivot. Don't be like, start working with us, because that positions you as the hero. You need to point to the promised land. If you know what I mean by the promised land, it's the outcomes, it's the result that working with you takes them to. That's what they need to start doing. So I hope that's helpful for you.
Yeah, so I'll reframe that to changing inefficient operations into effective operations that saves time.
Cool. But if you can put it down in shorter words or have conversations with ChatGPT, I'm sure it will help for
Yes,
sure.
that's help.
Great. Or you, so this is the first shift. I love Christopher Voss. If you're a Chris Voss disciple like I am, he talks about stop chasing yes. And we're all tired of salespeople trying to push us to get to say yes in things. And he takes the opposite approach in the best negotiation. He's the best negotiator in the world right now, at least considered. And he says it's better to get people to say no, what they are not okay with, what they're not comfortable with, what they're not going to tolerate, as the starting point to see what they might want to do. And I love that. It's so brilliant. So instead of saying, like, very simply, is now a good time to talk? That's asking a yes. You might say in his model, is now a terrible time to talk? So it just turns it upside down, and it makes people feel safer by saying no. So I love that technique, by the way. I'm not sure. Anyone here Chris Voss fans?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like to stop pitching, lead a movement instead, because that works so much better. We've worked with publicly traded companies like aware.com, helping them dial in this first shift, and they've done it very successfully. They're selling a whole lot more now in 2025 than they did last year because of these shifts that they've made. This is a really nice contrast that they're doing between the old way, which is digital access, and the new way, which is not just biometrics, but it's intelligent biometrics. That's the new category that they have created. We have helped them create, which is a unique category that no other company is in, that positions them as a category of one. And that's one of the reasons why they're dominating the biometrics space right now. All right, so that is the first shift you got to make. And I believe this, type in the chat, yes or no. Do you believe that sales is an act of leadership? I'm just curious. Yes or no, or say it out loud. What do you think? Do you believe that? Yes, I believe it is. I believe it is. And I think if you're going to lead people, take a look at these hashtags. And in terms of leading a movement, do you guys have a hashtag? Do you guys use it? Type in the chat what your hashtag is. I'm curious. Or just say out loud, what is your hashtag? And these are some hashtags up on the screen that are wildly successful. Some of them are social movements. Some of them are political. Some of them are like from the Wall Street Journal, trust your source. Live anywhere is from Airbnb. Make your day is TikTok. Find your beach is Corona. Hit your number is from Zoom Info. Just do it. Y'all know what that's from. So all of these are very successful. Why are these successful? Anyone can look at what they all have in common.
Call to action.
Yes. And this is what sales is an act of leadership, and good marketing is this. And ChatGPT doesn't know this, by the way, unless you train it. But all of them start with a verb, which is a call to movement. And it's a call to a positive action. So whether you agree with it's positive or not depends on whether you're the tribe of their customers or not. But that doesn't matter. What matters is a positive vision. So I learned this from Dr. Michelle Mazur, who wrote the book, The Three-Word Rebellion. And she said that the reason why Occupy Wall Street didn't work as a social movement is because it didn't paint a picture of a positive change. It was just like, do this, but then what? Nothing. It just fell flat. So all of these speak to a positive change. So anyone have put in the chat what your hashtag is? So Aviel, stay ahead of the game. So stay definitely starts with a verb. That's great. I don't know the context in your business, so unless we have context, we won't know if it's good or bad. For example, hit your number. We won't know if that's good or bad unless we know what company it's for. So it's for Zoom Info, right? But it's brilliant because Zoom Info, they're selling the most boring thing you can possibly sell on planet Earth. What does Zoom Info sell? They sell data, like information. But the reason why people buy their information is because they want to hit their number. They want to grow sales. So that's why it's good. So if you have a chat, close with confidence. I like that. Give us some context. So I like because it starts with a verb. All right, so I have had the privilege of working with some really innovative CEOs like Jeff Aronson. Before he made these shifts, these 5 shifts, he had a really confusing marketing content. Pipeline was thin, letting key partners and investors down, and losing a lot of deals. After he made these shifts, they had tripled revenue in 4 months. And I can't promise you're going to have these kinds of amazing results, but it is possible. And this is their website, by the way, and it really rocked it, where the messaging dialed really into the problem that their customers are facing, what they're selling, who they're selling it for. All those questions were answered. So does that make sense to you that leading a movement is an essential shift for thought leadership and for marketing, that you're not just making claims about why your stuff is better, but you're really leading a movement to the outcomes that your solution provides? Any comments or thing you want to chat about before we move on to number 2? Anything I can clarify? Anyone?
Nope.
Cool. Is this useful, by the way? Thinking about it, is this resonating with you? And if it is, you need some help in your business. I've set aside a few sessions to meet with me and my team, and to meet with you and your teams to talk about how to implement these shifts. So let's dive into shift number 2. Shift number 2 is to fall in love with the problem. Now, I love this one because it's so easy for us CEOs to just be, gobbledygooks in love with this amazing innovation that we sold. I mean, isn't that right? Isn't that like where we're at? So Maria, I like that. Realize your growth. Give us some context. So let me ask you a question, guys. So why not start with your solution? Why does starting with your solution in your messaging and your marketing, why does that not work so well?
It doesn't talk about the problem you're solving for the customer. They always have a burning problem that's causing them some severe pain.
And you ever go to like a networking event and you ask somebody what they do and they tell you what they do and you're like, okay, that's great. I have no idea what you do. I have no idea what problem you solve unless you say you're a cop or a fireman or a doctor. I don't really know what you do.
Yeah, I always sit on I also sit on the investment side. So trust me, I see a lot of pitches, which is get to the end of it and I still have no understanding of who the customer is or what they solve for. The best is these days, oh, I'm an AI company. Yes, you and 5,020 others.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. So it's just noise. So this is what you need to do in making the shifts. And this is what we help the businesses we work with, is to dial into the problem, because that's what's really the magnet for your ideal customers, because that's what they're suffering with. And that's what you're trying to help them overcome. So just a yes or no question. Do you feel in your heart of hearts that you are undervaluing the problem and the impact that the problem has in your customer's world? Yes or no? Notice I didn't say product here.
I believe that clients themselves are undervaluing their own problems. So that's what we face on a daily basis. They find that they acknowledge there's a problem, but they don't realize the severity of that problem. They just feel, you can just patch it with a couple bucks here and there, and that'll be.
And isn't it the job of your core messaging to to describe your customer's problem and the impact of their problem better than they can?
Yes. Sometimes they don't even know it's a problem.
Right.
They
But
don't realize it's a problem.
isn't that the job of your marketing and your messaging and your positioning to do
It
that?
is. Yes.
And just on a scale of 1 to 10, how many businesses out there you think do a really good job of this?
Not sure.
Yeah, it's
Not
tough.
sure.
It's really tough. So one of the ways we do this is to understand who the ideal customer is. A lot of CEOs we work with, they just think their product is for everybody, but we know it's not for everybody. So how well you understand your customer and who they are, who the like big capital letters they are, I believe is your biggest competitive advantage. So like, for example, I saw this website from a CEO that came to one of our master classes and they, put it up on the screen and it was just embarrassing. So is this website in love with who they are, or is it in love with the problem that they solve?
I love what
Well, it's
buzzwords
not
are.
clear to me.
Yeah. Well, it's clear to me, they're just talking about how there should be, they're trustworthy, they're courageous, they're accountable, compassionate, excellent, whatever. It's all BS. It's all like says who, says them, it's self-ascribed solution talk. So the good news is everybody, your customers do need your solution in order to make their world a better place for their business and my kids and your kids. And I believe your solution helps everybody. But you really can't start with the solution. And if you spent as much time as I have in selling, you'll realize that money in organizations follows pain. It doesn't typically follow goals. And I've also found that customers buy more when they feel understood by how much you can describe their situation than by you describing what your stuff does. Have you found this to be true? Well, in selling and marketing?
100%.
So, but most businesses don't do this. Most businesses start with the vitamin, like, oh, our product, it does this and it helps you achieve these awesome goals, which is selling vitamins. But I found, and maybe you found this to be true, that people are twice more likely to buy something than to relieve pain in their organization than to gain something. Because the act of gaining something exposes organizations to risk because it means change. So human nature is people typically don't want to change unless the risk of staying the same is greater than the risk of changing. That's what I found. Have you found that to be true as well?
Mhm.
So this is why you need to fall in love with the problem and really dial it in and train your AIs with how clear you understand your customer's problem as an expert, as the expert doctor. And I call this the doctor frame. Because the old way of pitching is we help companies achieve compliance, and that starts with solution. It's goal oriented. The new way and better way is we help companies and CEOs who are struggling with compliance or struggling with or frustrated with something. That's problem centric messaging. The one on the right works a shit ton better than the messaging on the left. And unless you train your AIs and have a framework document to do this, you're not going to cut through that noise. You're not going to be able to do that. The crossing the chasm, I got this idea from Jeffrey Moore, but I flipped this around because I believe, like I said before, the risk of doing nothing for some customers is greater than the risk of changing. And you need to figure out in your whole flow of prospects, which people are the people who feel they're good where they are versus the people who feel like if they don't change, that there's going to be consequences. And I call this the buyer's belief curve. It comes down to what they believe, not what you tell them. And understanding this curve impacts the way you message on your homepage and train your AIs in terms of messaging. And it's very important because otherwise you're just trying to educate a market or educate a market that's not ready to buy. All right, so let's pass this through to number 3. Does that make sense? The starting with the problem and falling in love with the problem is essential, is a shift that you need to make.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Let's get on with number 3. But before, Warren Johnson, he's a great CEO, by the way, of a very innovative company called ScribeX. Before he made these shifts, stagnant growth. He had a lot of great salespeople who were leaving, missing forecasts. After he made these shifts, he went to almost 3,000 customers in just 12 months. And so, and Manish also, he had bootstrapped the business and had very limited runway. And now they've grown exponentially, offering a very innovative product that really competes with Amazon shipping. So, I mean, I know why this is hard. You probably know why this is hard. You know, there's a lot of outdated playbooks. A lot of marketers are happy to take your money for $3,000, $8,000, $20,000, or $120,000, and write marketing content for you that makes you feel good about your solution, but doesn't actually help you sell. And that's just the reality. All right, so number 3, let's get into it. The third shift is make your customer the hero of the story. Now, I'm sure some of you may have heard this from Donald Miller, and I'm sure many of you know this already intellectually. But how many of you feel like you really have made this shift in all of your marketing and messaging today? Anyone? We've got Mark, Maria, Iona, Ben, Aviel, Daniel. Anyone feel you've made this shift?
No.
Yeah. And it's thank you for being honest, Maria. It's really hard. And it's hard, but because I like to think of the story as like the Lion King. I think what you know about the Lion King story is all you need to know about making your customer the hero. So in the Lion King, who is the villain of the story?
Scar.
Scar, right. Who is the guide of that story? Like the guide, the trusted advisor.
Rafiki.
Rafiki, yes. And what was
I'm just saying this because I watched it 2 nights ago with my daughter.
Yeah, I watched it too. So the promised land, that Pride Rock was the place that it was the outcomes, the results that your customer wants to get to. So let's all fill it in place. So you are Rafiki, your brand, is providing an elixir, a process, a method, a something to the hero who has lost their way and is suffering from the villain of the story, which represents the status quo typically, and a worldview. The world should be a certain way, and that's what Scar was. And then you've got the victims of the story. The victims of the story are those animals that were sort of cast out of Pride Rock. And the victims in your customer story is if your customer is the hero, then the victims of the story are their customers or their bottom line or their time or their money and the impact to their business. That's the victim of the story. So put things in a story framework really helps, and training the AIs to do this is so essential because once you can give the AI, the grounding of the story, then it will spin up amazing persuasive content that like really helps people buy. Because I think unless you have a compelling story, you really don't have a chance. But the story that you need to tell has to position. Nobody cares about you or your company or your product. They care about their lives and their business and their situation. So positioning the story as where they're the hero, you're the guide, and laying out who the victims are and where the promised land needs to be is the essential framework you need to train the GPTs on. And we help our clients do this in a very structured way. And it's essential for training AIs to have the right voice. But I can go to any website, and you go to any website now, and you can just read in 3 seconds, what is the voice? Who's the voice here? Is it the voice saying why we're the best, trying to convince me why we're the best? Or is it a voice that's telling me how we can be better and what I shouldn't be tolerating anymore? So that's 2 different voices, and they're voices from 2 different characters. What's your feeling about this? About you can identify the voice of the character of the brand by this simple litmus test. What are your thoughts about this? Ben, Daniel, Aviel, Maria?
Yeah, in my view, this is Aviel. Um, I think it should be a mix of both, you know? People go to a website to find out who they are, right? Who these people are. Are they good at what they say they do? You know, are they trustworthy?
Yeah.
And if we're only if we're only, signaling or telling
Yeah.
potential customers that they're in trouble, but
Yeah,
not
no,
necessarily
you're
telling
absolutely
them
right.
that we're
There,
good at solving for those problems, then that's, I think
yeah.
it has to be a mixture.
It is a mixture, and that's why there's actually like 12 to 16 different sections that need to be on your homepage that tell different aspects of the story. We're talking about the voice that should be the DNA throughout, but there should be a section in it there that lends your credibility and your authority and who you are, and how you've come to this recommendation for sure. Because I believe that what you're selling is really it's a way station between your customer's current state, what they're experiencing right now, and where they would like to go. It's a way station. So I believe, like we talked about before, it's all about helping companies change, helping people change. That's really what your solution's about. And there's Rafiki, my main man, helping the hero of the story. And I know in sales, when I've done a very good job in sales, it's when I've really been able to position myself as a way to help our customers overcome the challenges and be successful. Have you found this as well when you're really seated and grounded in your sales effort and your sellers, your sales team, when they're very effective? They're most effective when they're positioned in that sort of doctor frame. Have you found that to be true?
Yep.
So a lot of companies fail at this. They talk about my company provides this unique, complex solution, blah, blah, blah. And what they fail to realize, what we as CEOs fail to realize is everyone is saying the same thing, including ChatGPT. This is also very tactical. ChatGPT will happy to give you really weak call to actions, like get started or learn more, unless you train it to give you very specific calls to value. I call them calls to value because they are specific and they clearly point out what is the next immediate step that the user, the customer needs to take to get to where they want to go, which is ultimately the promised land. Yeah, a lot I can say about that. Like I call it the Cinderella complex. Like, what does Cinderella want to do? Does she want to marry rich, go to the ball, or live happily ever after? But I think the call to action for Cinderella is go to the ball. Like that's what she needs to do first. That's like the button on the page for Cinderella. It shouldn't be live happily ever after is the button. But so many businesses make the mistake of making these vague CTAs. Another big mistake I see is I think like 80% of deals go to die on websites when they ask people to fill out a form like first name, last name, email address, blah, blah, blah. Click submit. Oh my gosh, that like gives me cringes when I see submit. I don't want to submit. But 80% of deals go to die because it gets lost in the back and forth email. And it's businesses that know this don't do that anymore. They put a booking form that's either rotating with their salespeople or individual to the head of sales. And once someone commits to a date and time, that's when they hit them up with a form. Anyway, I'm happy to meet with you guys. If I've got a few slots booked for later this week. If you snapshot this QR code, screenshot it, you could book some time with us and we can talk to you about implementing these 5 shifts if you need some help and what that would look like. All right.
Just go back to the QR code, please.
Yeah, sure. There's the QR code. You can,
Too
sure.
fast.
Yeah, and also in the chat, I think I put the link too in the chat. I'll put that in the end. So Patricia, she's the CEO of a very sophisticated software platform called Behavior Science Technology. That doesn't sound sophisticated. It really was, but she couldn't differentiate. A lot of solution talk, failing to book new conversations. After she made these shifts, doubled the sales rate in 3 months, confident with the marketing spend, finally it was turning out. And earlier we talked about the power of saying stop doing the old thing and start doing the new thing. This kind of very simple talk, the simple messaging showed up. She just set up a call with me today. She posted this on LinkedIn. Within minutes later, she emailed me and said, booked a major COO with a company with a great deal just because of the messaging. So it really works when you position yourself as the guide and you start saying like Rafiki in The Lion King, he slapped his stick. He carried like a stick. He hit he hit Simba on the head with a stick, you know, and said, stop thinking about whatever. I forgot. But that's the kind of position you need to take. And this is a winning position. So does that make sense that you need to make your customer the hero? Anything you want me to clarify here? Mark, Iona?
No.
Okay. So quick take. If we have time at the end, I'm happy to take a look at your site and offer some advice. But let's go to number 4. Number 4, and we're almost going to run out of some time. I want to get to the 5th shift, but number 4 is to name your category. So if you're selling an innovation, you do need to name your category. And this is something that all very clever, smart CEOs do. And I'm encouraging guys to do this thing. And it's typically a prefix or a pre-word in front of an existing category. So by 2030, spatial computing will be a thing. It'll be on glasses, and people will be like VR. It's going to be AR, augmented reality. And so Apple tried to put their flag in the ground with what they're calling spatial computing. This is just a good example. Whether the product is working now or not doesn't matter. They're still selling it. Taking an existing category, existing market, which is in Apple's case, computing, and putting a unique spin on it. NVIDIA, they're wildly successful now, and they're selling their product, calling a new category of accelerated computing, which is a certain kind of computing. So this is the framework. This is the formula that you should use. So I call our category, we're in marketing, but we're doing AI integrated sales and marketing enablement, because you need to be integrating AI into your sales and marketing for you to survive by 2027. So these are some examples of category creation, and this is something that you need to do. If you've already created a category, type in the chat or come off of mute. What is the unique category that you're in? And we'll talk about it. Like Marriott's calling it vacation ownership. Comfort Connect is calling comfort ownership. That's about, instead of buying your air conditioner, you can essentially lease it. Marriott saying instead of buying a condo, you could just buy timeshare. So the Jaguar Freight, they're in the freight business. Freight intelligence is their category that they're moving towards, and that's great because AI is shaping so many different industries now. Conversational intelligence, and ReadyWorks is leading with smart forms as their category. Video intelligence, information-driven versus document-driven, intelligent recovery instead of data backup and recovery. Here's a CCO instead of a PPO plan for healthcare. So there are a lot of really good examples of categories that have worked very well. So if you have your category, smart operations, I love that, Maria, because smart is a dog whistle for intelligent, for AI. That's great. So type in the chat, what is your unique category? Or come off of mute if you have one already. Talk about it. Modern enablement. Okay, it's a little confusing. What do you mean by enablement, Mark? So modern enablement to me sounds like an attribution. It doesn't sound like a category. So if you want to pin that down or need our help, happy to discuss it. All right, so does that make sense that this is a crucial step to name your category? Anyone want to ask any specific questions about how to do that or what direction? By the way, it's all in my book if you want to read my book as well, how to do this. But shift number 5. Shift number 5 is the secret weapon. And I started out talking about AI, and this is the secret weapon, but how to exactly use AI. Most businesses do not have a core messaging framework document. And let me show you what a core messaging framework document looks like. This is one we're working on now for UPro placement. And this is like this is a 32-page document that is the training data for the AIs. And it answers all the questions like, what do we believe? What do our prospects also need to believe in order for them to become customers? Who are they? What problems are they facing? What happens if they don't resolve those problems? Who are the characters of the story? What might be our hashtag? What might be the goals that they're trying to achieve? What do they want? Who are we selling to? Like, all of this needs to be written out and carefully work through, because if you just ask ChatGPT or prompt to like write me marketing and it doesn't have this context, doesn't have this frame, you're not going to get good content. But if you can do this, this is the secret weapon. Once you get that done, and we work with customers all the time to get this done, this framework document, this also eliminates all these bad words, the words never to use. Like, make sure the framework document has never to use words. And if you can do this, you can get GPT or Claude or Gemini to become your marketing expert in your brand voice. And that's when you can bring down like $8,000 of marketing spend to like $3 in API credits for your entire team. Amazing stuff. So this is the secret weapon, 3 steps. You have to engage an expert to do facilitated interviews, because it's not just about reading all your documents now, because that's what AI can do. It's really about tapping the genius that you have in your hearts and minds of your leadership team to pull out the insights that you have verbally, and then capture that and then put that into a framework that's problem centric, and then train the GPT so that you own it. You own the GPT that can spin up for your entire team 24/7, better, safer content than anybody can write, including me and you, and that will be publish ready. Instead of, you won't have to edit it when it's on the back end, it will be publish ready. And then you need to transform your website, presentations, and emails. And that's some busy work, but lots of AIs can help with that. And we could point you to how, if you don't know already. But I'm seeing our clients are getting like 25x efficiency, and I've got YouTube clicks and clips to show you about how they're doing that. This diagram shows you essentially the 2 bubbles. The first bubble is what you need to lock down, getting really clear answers to all these questions. And the second bubble is building this launch pad for content. This is what, by 2026, most businesses that are going to be winning are going to be they'll have this content machine that they will own for everybody, from the someone in operations to customer support, writing an email response, or even the AIs that are on their website will be trained on that framework. I'm just curious, does this make sense, or is this kind of an ugly slide? But is there any questions about this concept?
Makes sense.
So this is a sales enablement ladder that we typically do. We call it a 3-month ladder, and it starts with month 1. And that's so that messaging work, it's like the hard human work to pull out those insights, those golden nuggets, and then training the GPTs. The hard stuff is this, like getting these questions answered. And we're not going to find them. We typically don't find answers to this when we look at the content that's on the website or already published. And the reason why this has to get fixed is because the future of SEO is not gaming Google to trick it to find your homepage. The future of SEO is going to be feeding the large language models with a story and a message that just makes sense and is really good, and that really pins the tail on the donkey, because the AIs are smarter than all of us combined, and they will be by 2027. So we're not going to outgame the system. We just have to write really good content, and AI will help us with that. Did I say anything too controversial here? And if I triggered you, just feel free to come off of mute and yell at me. I'm from New York, I can handle it. But it's a stark warning I have, because I feel like I really have seen the future. And I really feel like what's going to happen, we're all not prepared for what's going to happen by 2027. A lot of white collar jobs are going to go away. A lot of things are being automated. I've already eliminated 3 positions on our team for automations that we built. So it's not just happening in my company, it's happening in companies all over. And I think a lot of people are kind of just sticking their head in the sand to pretend it's not happening, but it is. So I've become an AI integrated sales and marketing agency. When I say I'm the CEO of this company. We're a small group. And we're AI integrated because I believe my customers, like you guys, need to be integrated as well. So what are your thoughts about this?
I'm curious, Greg, what's the positions you eliminated? Because, also looking a lot of how do you bring in more agents and things, and it's not a clear
Yeah.
a clear aspect. And I think which is why this feels so overwhelming for a lot of people. But
Yeah.
why did
So
you?
I can share the two positions we eliminated. It's a little heartbreaking, but it just makes so much sense. So, a sales development rep we had in 2024, we eliminated because we created one using AI that did research on individuals using just an email address, going to their LinkedIn profile, reading everything about their profile, going to their website, reading everything about their business, reading their white papers, and then crafting a series of 3 emails to that person, having done deep, deep research about them and their business. And those emails are so well written and so effective that the AI doesn't take lunch breaks, doesn't need vacation time, doesn't need a laptop, and does a better job. So I'm just saying that's for my business. I'm not the devil here. I'm just saying this stuff is going to happen a million times fold by 2027 in every business in the United States
Yeah.
because it's going to do it better. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's the Chicken Little in me, right?
This is not really bad news. This for me is opportunity because it's, again, frees up time on the grudge task for people. So people with AI in partnership are the ones who will be better off versus the one who don't get there, and companies as well. So I'm fully on board with what you're saying, and yeah, curious to learn more on how you develop these SDRs, because I've seen many platforms as well, which is just terrible. I mean, when I look at some of the
Yeah.
stuff coming
So
in
I
on,
feel it's not about buying a platform. It's actually building a tool set so that you own the set of tools versus buying a one-stop platform. I don't think that's the way of the future. Because I also think this is a transient, like a way station for what's coming in 2026. And that's the agent. Right now, we built an AI SDR that is essentially an automation. It's not an agent. And anyone says that they have an agent now, they're lying because they don't exist yet. Agents are coming though. I've seen sparks of agents, and maybe you've seen them too. So agents are making independent decisions along a path. AI automations have to be programmed to do everything. It's like orchestrated. It's step by step. But I know that 2026, the agents will replace what we have now. But the people the businesses that don't have the automations in place now, they're going to be way behind the 8 ball when the agents are available. They're going to be like, now what do we do? So I think it's important to use the process of making AI integrated in automations as a stepping stone for what's coming next.
yeah, and I think it's just from what I've observed as well, because I'm here in San Francisco and we're obviously an AI, what do you call it, AI hub at the moment, being on the investment side as well. So the automations, I think AI is just turning it into smarter automations, but I think the embedded automations are still in some things, especially if it's repetitive, better than a smart agent. So
Yeah,
there's
well, right, but we don't know yet. Agents are still on the cutting edge. Like, I haven't seen any agents yet. Have you?
well, I mean, I've seen some aspects of agents
Yeah.
in what some companies are doing, and also trying to add in value around that. So
Yeah, so it's like the Scooby-Doo.
often,
In Scooby-Doo when they rip the mask off of the villain and it's really not who you think it is. I've ripped off the mask of agents and they're not yet. But
yeah,
I'm just saying they're coming.
I agree with you, but there are some agentic aspects where I've seen in the medical diagnostic side, which are
Yeah.
a lot better, but it's still a long way to go, or a ways to go.
So as you can see, Maria and Ben and Daniel and Mark, Iona, I am passionate about what we're doing here. And I would say you guys have a choice. You can do nothing. You can go it alone, make these shifts, or you can get help. I want to encourage you to get help. And we've got some time booked aside. And we're actually experimenting this year with what we're calling an accountability guarantee to guarantee to double your win rate. And it comes with some terms, and it's got to be the right fit. You got to follow our instructions, and if you don't, then all bets are off. But we're experimenting with this guarantee because this is what we're seeing. Our clients are doubling their win rate after we're done after 90 days. So I'm excited about that. And if that's appropriate for you to offer this, we will. If it's not, we won't. So it's got to be the right fit for that. So I'd recommend if you guys want some help in making these shifts, like some other folks have, book a discussion. There's the QR code. Get clear on what to do. It's not a pitch. I will not be pitching you. It's just let's get clear and get a plan to getting it done.
Well done on this, Greg.
Thank you. Who's that just spoke?
That's
Daniel?
Dan.
Sure. Sure. So let me give away some stuff. I promised to give away some stuff here if you're still here. Thank you, Daniel. The magnetic messaging framework. This is a PDF that you can compare what all the sections to tell the right story is on your website. I'm going to put this in the chat. That's the magnetic messaging framework. Then I'm going to put here the 12 conversations. If you miss one of them, you will likely lose the deal. And this is also the GPT we've spun up. I spun this one up that is a messaging evaluator that gives you a score on how
Yeah.
you told your story.
Thank you for that. I already typed on it in the one email you sent, so it's
Oh, that's great.
it was
Great. Thank you.
Sure. And I'm also going to give you guys, so you don't have to buy my book, but if you do buy my book, I love that. I'm not really interested in the money from the book, but I'm interested in getting honest reviews for the book, Storycraft for Disruptors. But there's a free copy of the PDF that you can download. And if I were you, I would download the PDF, I'd upload it to ChatGPT and have a conversation with it, like hey, so tell me what this book's about, and hey, how should I do this? So that's, I think, a good way to use AI, where it really is good at summarizing and crunching a lot of information. So
Hmm.
I'm not sure if you use AI in that way, but AI is a great summarizer. All right. So, guys, we are at time. I am grateful to you because I know you guys are here because you are focused on growing your business and getting to 2025 like gangbusters and thriving, because I want you guys to be successful, because I believe that you're in business to help make the world a better place. And that's why I'm in business, because I've got small kids and big kids, and I want the world to be great for them. And I just, so you know, I'm going to talk a little bit about AI. I think, by 2035, it's really going to be awesome. That's 10 years from now. There's going to be abundance of medicine, and things will be very cheap. And there'll be an abundance of healthcare and things that will be really great for people. So I'm very optimistic about where this is headed. But I will say that there's going to be some really shitty times in probably the end of this decade as things start to change, when AI really starts picking up steam. And that's why I think I'm passionate about really helping first movers and helping CEOs that are building businesses and have businesses to cross this chasm.
I'm really curious as you're talking about this super quick, what's your take on what business will even be when you have what were traditionally large companies that built things over periods of time against longer term objectives, when you have those companies starting to kind of be disintermediated by or disrupted by folks coming out there with less capital requirement. And here, I'll show you my face so you can see me as we're talking.
Sure.
And actually, building stuff, moving quickly, and a lot of folks going after what could be the same, tackling similar problems.
Yeah.
When it used to be only fewer companies with the resources that could do it. It
Yeah.
feels like that in itself is a massive inflection point. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are there.
Wow. I don't have a crystal ball about that. I just know what you and I are both talking about is massive disruption and massive empowerment and democratization. And I don't know where that's going to head, but I do know that once things shake out, it's going to be good. But between now and then, it's going to be really bad for a
Mhm.
lot of businesses. Really bad.
When you say when things shake out, it's kind of like what is this? What is this shakeout? Is it, meaning when you get to a moment longer of status quo where there's quote a sense of how you do business, how you make money in the new environment, or will that always be such a quick changing reality? Right? It used to be like you could go in and get a degree for some certain capability, you go
Yeah.
out, have some role. There was a time frame from which you could go and do it. it feels like that floor from which someone will stand on is for any period of time is no longer a
Yeah.
decision moment.
So yeah, I agree with what you've said. So what's your question, if you can just frame it for me so I can answer it?
Sure. I guess the question is that how you would also see that when you say when things shake, and it's like the messy middle. You're like, things will get better when things shake out, but in the meantime, it's going to be horrible and messy. So
Yeah.
like, is that what you're essentially referring to? But what is that better side? What is the better, most empowered, quote, place that you're envisioning? What's a company if everyone's a company? Like who are
Yeah.
your clients? Like
I think we're talking really theoretical here, and I'd like to make this really clear and concrete.
sure.
So if you can lay out a specific example so I could
Yeah.
really understand.
I was getting theoretical, but in part because it feels like when you talk about 20, going into agents from automation,
Yeah.
it's not far off. The whole
Yeah.
area of theoretical becomes
Yeah.
like this isn't years out. This is
Yeah.
everyone
No,
is
it's
ready.
months. Yeah, agents are months, maybe not even years.
Right.
Uh, I think I'm a bad predictor. I think we all pretty bad predictors, but I have an intuition that is guiding me here. An intuition that basically says that if you're not curious and you're not exploring, and you as a CEO is not experimenting with what is possible, then you're not going to be in a good place when things are uh, exploding with AGI. AGI, however you define AGI, that when that tipping point happens, when a whole country, I think the CEO of Anthropic just said that he's sitting on a country of geniuses right now, a country of geniuses that he has no idea how they're working. That's what the CEO of Anthropic, it's like a bomb. And
Wow.
so that's what we're talking about. And when that gets launched, I have no idea what that looks like. I just know that for my kids and for our business, it's about leaning in and leaning forward into how to use AI to manifest what our products or services are. Because coming back to the first principle, we build products and services to help businesses and people create a better world for themselves and their customers. That's like the first principle. And if throwing more intelligence at it is a good thing. More intelligence always is a good thing, not a worser thing.
Mm.
So I think that's why if we get to the place, we cross the chasm,
Yeah.
it'll be great for everybody, but there's going to be a lot of shakeout with a lot of businesses that haven't figured out how to adopt and to collaborate with this foreign intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. That's helpful. The additional context gives me an idea of how you're viewing it. I think that's the big question is how folks should be even viewing it now. Um, Obviously, what you're putting forth here is extremely valuable, and it does speak to having someone has to have a clear service or product, right?
Yes,
If you don't
yes.
have that, then what is this all for? I just went the next level for a moment to ask, what is a service or a product in a world where everyone and everything in addition to every company is a service and a product in just a majorly different way.
Yeah, that is also a little theoretical, but I agree. It's like it's hard to look past even 6 months. I mean, like what's happened in the last 3 months is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. Here's the pyramid, by the way, I showed earlier, and
Mhm.
most people are using ChatGPT like this bottom pyramid. Let me just uh, make myself smaller. How do I make myself smaller? Here. Yeah, I'll just put myself here. So most businesses and employees and staff are using ChatGPT at that bottom level. They're having user memory, they're having chats. But the smart businesses are creating custom layered uh, layers of trained GPTs on top of that. And then they're having hundreds, if not thousands, of chats with that third layer to create different things from emails to responses to proposals to chatbots. And so this is the latter that most CEOs, I'm sorry, most businesses aren't using yet. They're still at the first layer.
Mm,
So my goal in the next 6 months is to just help at least 20 companies, climb this ladder of using AI.
super interesting. Yeah, it's great. You package this up really well.
Great, thank you. I'm glad you. So I do this every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Have the sort of office hours. I go through 5 shifts. If you have any suggestions about what would be useful next time, what to spend more time on, or whatever, I'm all ears. But thank you, Daniel.
Sounds great. Yeah, thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. Nice
Sure.
to meet you as well.
Nice to meet you. And thanks, Ben. Good to see you again, Ben Cornelius. Good to see you. Thank you for joining.
Thanks, Greg. This was fun.
Great.
Yeah.
Take care.